Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday to you on this October 21st, 2025. I got all your stories for your rush hour ride to work, and we've got it all. From Baldoni to Blake Lively, ballroom renovations, and we've got a Justice for Clayton update. Not to mention the Louvre has been robbed. So fantastic sets of circumstances to digest right now. We're also going to be talking about Laura Owens as she's now asking for medical intervention as a reason why she can't be attending today's trial in San Francisco. All that plus the shutdown. These stories and more starts right now on The Rush. Well, if you saw me on yesterday's Patreon, patreon.com/Dave Neal, you know I absolutely lost my mind that the morning episode of The Rush Hour was not available on podcast form. I don't know if it was an issue with my service provider or possibly this outage that went down. Are you familiar with this? Everything from Venmo to United Airlines, McDonald's, Amazon, all had a cloud-based issue. Have a listen.
That they have made a resolution. They identified the issue that basically recovery should be happening right now. But it's been a weird morning for a lot of people that have been trying to access everything from finance apps to ride hailing to their airlines, as well as Canva. This is, by the way, a big type of software that a lot of students use. So it's impacting your ability to get your homework last minute before you get started on this Monday. Take a look at all these.
So there it is. If you had an issue with your homework, you don't need the dog ate my homework excuse. Well, it got lost in the cloud. Either way, we're back. We're rip-roaring. If you watch on YouTube and want to help me out, please search The Rush Hour with Dave Neal wherever you listen to podcasts and hit subscribe. We're trying to boost our numbers over there to make up for whatever this outage was. Okay, we're going to get into the Baldoni stuff in a second. I've got a couple legal takes that's going to be very interesting after yesterday afternoon's bombshell audio recording. The leaked, the sealed audio of recording of Steve Sarowitz was unsealed, and we listened to it, and it's a big old fat nothing burger. So we'll get to that in a minute. But how about this heist? Wanted to cover this yesterday, just ran out of time. Right here in Paris, the Louvre was broken into, and apparently the DNA is everywhere. Have a listen.
Still baffled by the brazen 7-minute robbery at the Louvre, the hunt is now on for the priceless treasures and those responsible for this audacious heist. This is what we know. A truck-mounted furniture lift parked just outside the vast building, right by the River Seine. Inside the truck were 2 robbers, and 2 others joined on foot. Within minutes, the group was on the first-floor balcony, breaking through the window with disc grinders. The group had identified 2 display cases and went immediately to work. They took with them 9 pieces of priceless jewelry.
All right, so they got all this priceless jewelry. Even some was spilling onto the streets as they were making their getaway, and they haven't caught these guys yet. Apparently, they left on scooters. Probably, this is a good example of bystander syndrome. You see a work vehicle, you just assume they're doing work. But and by the way, how do you sell priceless jewelry anyway? You don't just get to put that on, on Craigslist, right? All right, so either way, someone is going to have to, have a lot of legal issues if they get caught. And speaking of legal issues, now's our time for the Laura Owens update. She's, of course, going to trial for 7 felony charges in Arizona, faking pregnancy, perjury, all these things. Well, she's also in trial today in San Francisco, that being her trying to extend her domestic violence restraining order she has against Mike Maricini. But now she's filed an expedited request for reconsideration of her motion to continue. So she's already asked the judge, can we just pause this? And the judge is like, no. And she's like, pretty please? And it's really sad stuff here. And again, at any time, she could just drop the domestic violence restraining order that she has, as it's really provably been made off of false info and fabricated info. But it's really sad stuff. And here she describes her diagnosis of having extreme anorexia, a 50-pound weight loss. Again, she will use that in the coming months to try to sue me and others for emotional distress. We already know her playbook. We see it from a mile away. She has gastrointestinal bleeding and says she's got a doctor's note. But again, this is, she has to get permission from San Francisco in order to make it out, from Arizona in order to leave the state, as her trial is set to begin in a few months. It's just sad because all of this is of her making. All of what we see here, all of the insanity is of her making, and yet she has control, or seemingly doesn't have control, as to whether or not this continues. So it's really going to be up to her what the next steps are, although the judge is saying you better be in court today. I don't have the update as to whether or not this is going to go down, but for all of our friends and fine folks that are there in San Francisco, I hope your time isn't being wasted, although I wouldn't be surprised. Most people understand to buy refundable tickets at this point because she's a mess. She's unreliable, and whether she makes it there or not, we'll have to see. And how about this update? Arizona Attorney General objects to the Owens family's bankruptcy plan. This is not good. They object because they actually found more money in unpaid taxes that were not listed by the Owens family. And if this bankruptcy plan doesn't go through, I've been told from financial experts they could come after the Owens family home. Listen, I don't want anybody to be homeless. Would it be ironic? Yes, I don't want that. But this family has just driven their image into the ground. This is just, you couldn't have written it any darker. And I feel bad for them, but it's just the consequences of their actions. A family that had millions and millions of dollars, $25,000 a month. Currently, the father gets in his retirement. They can't pay their bills. They can't tell the truth. Court cases everywhere. This daughter is just wreaking havoc. And I'm sorry that the consequences of her actions are catching up to her. For that, I do not feel bad, but I do hope someone's able to get this family in order. Boy, geez, they just literally did a GoFundMe for $130,000. None of it's enough. You and myself and everyone else, we show up to work. We don't milk the system. We pursue our life. And then there's a family like this who apparently $25,000 a month, not enough to scrape by. Wild stuff indeed. Okay, we're going to get to the Justin Baldoni tea in a second because there is a lot, but we do have some Bachelor news. How about this clip I'm about to share with you? Bachelor alum Rachel Kirkconnell, who, by the way, might be my favorite Bachelor contestant of all time, says she feels like a virgin again. Have a listen.
Okay. I don't think that we've discussed, guys, I haven't had sex way longer than you think. It's been years. Okay?
Years. That is crazy.
And that's what I'm saying. I feel like a virgin again, to where I don't want to just give it up to anyone.
It's almost like
I can't just hook up with someone random at this point because it's been so long.
Rachel, yes, you can, but I respectfully do whatever the hell you want with your body. How about we get, if Rachel's never been in a better position to be the next Bachelorette, she might be one of the only people that can save this franchise at this point, quite honest. The Golden Bachelor has run it into the ground. Literally 0 people are watching. And Rachel, she's one of the last great stars of the show.
I want it to be incredible.
You almost feel like you've gone to the first person that breaks that seal, or kind of has to
you're right
be
when I think
meaningful.
about,
you don't want it to be a random person.
No, yeah, that's why I'm I think that's why I am a lover girl, because I feel like how we felt when we were in high school. I don't know. I'm not going to say everyone felt like this, but you know how everyone just makes losing your virginity such a big deal, and it's losing to someone special. That's how I feel. I'm I can't just give it up to just anyone.
All right, there it is. Rachel Kirkconnell. Breaking news. Not going to just give it up to anybody. Well, good luck, We wish her the best, of course. Relationship to Matt James didn't work out, and now saying, I'm assuming she's been platonic since then. So get back on that horse there, Rachel. We're rooting you on. Well, here's a sad story. I got to defend my buddy Reality Steve, a.k.a. Steve Carbone here. Andrew Spencer kind of talked a little trash about him. And I got to be honest, I'm a big fan of Andrew Spencer and of Reality Steve, so I feel like I'm caught in the middle here. Let's have a listen, and then I'll give my opinion. This is on Chicks in the Office podcast.
No, that's so true. Yeah, that's got to be hard. It's you don't want, and because people do love spoiling.
They do.
This show specifically.
It's so corny to me. Also,
my friend followed you guys, or followed you. The day after, and then they figured it out on
right. You can't even follow the person.
The Reality Steve dude.
Yeah.
I think it's so weird.
Yeah.
It's you're 50 and you're talking about reality TV and trying to spoil every season. That's just my opinion.
Oh, it's
Sorry.
he
I just think it's weird.
That's
I mean,
his thing.
I get it. I mean,
Oh, because
but,
he spoils it. I see.
like, I just don't like the spoiling.
Listen. Okay, so again, I'm a big fan of Andrew here, but this is a massive misstep. Hey, look, he's allowed to have his opinion, but let's break it down. You've got Reality Steve. First of all, who cares how old he is? That's ageism, right? If the guy enjoys reality TV and has literally made his career being he's kind of invented a sort of a genre, an offshoot of reality TV, which is he helps piece it all together. He's the one who gets the spoilers. Andrew doesn't get to sort of live the influencer life if it wasn't for an audience that is thirsty for that knowledge. Now, I understand it can get a little dark out there when the parasocial relationship gets a little too personal and all of that, but that's not necessarily Reality Steve's doing. He literally just spoils the show, and he's got a huge, very loyal fan base. I don't have to pimp for Steve to say, like, he's on the right side of this fan base, I believe, with the way that he covers things. He's got more ethics and journalism in the way he covers this show than just about any of these other, blogs or, not to throw anyone under the bus, but the gossip rags, right? They'll run on any story. He's checking driver's license. He wants to make sure he gets it right. Has he gotten it wrong in the past? Yeah, and so have I, and just about everyone who's covered this game has got it wrong. But, it's like, I'm 40 years old. So should I expect, like, at what age am I too old to cover the show? It's kind of rough. It's a rough take by Andrew. Again, I love Andrew, but I got to call a spade here. It's a rough take, and you can tell his partner there feels the same way. Steve gives pretty good interviews. He covers the show with I think a high level of professionalism. I truly do. I mean, how many people have covered the show for as long as he has that are still relevant and in the game, as it were? So you don't get to, you don't get this sort of influencer world, this parasocial bachelor world where you get to enjoy the riches of social media and this and that if it isn't for a fan base that cares. Now, sadly, the fan base doesn't seem to care as much as it used to. Ratings have plummeted, which is why they need to get Rachel Kirkconnell back on the call. All right, well, let's do this. Let's reset the deck and come back with Justin Baldoni. And again, look, I don't want anyone to blast Andrew. I still think Andrew's a good guy. I just think if I were there giving the interview, I think I would give Andrew a little more context to be like, yeah, there's a giant ecosystem around The Bachelor, and Steve's carved out his own. You can't blast the guy for that. If he spoils the story, it doesn't lead to any less ratings. I would argue Steve's contribution to The Bachelor has added to way more ratings. If the show had any clue how to run their business, they would invite Steve, not necessarily to let him spoil it, but they would invite him and other content creators like him onto the set to actually be a part of it because he has been such a name recognized in the community. Justice for Steve. Coming up next, Baldoni's the phone call between the head honcho Steve Sarowitz and some new thoughts as to why it might have been staged. Now, I'm not saying the phone call was staged by Steve Sarowitz, but a lot of people are starting to think that Claire Ayub, the person who recorded the phone call, was already working with Blake Lively. Now, I actually never came to that conclusion beforehand because I thought she just stumbled upon some gold and then offered it to Blake Lively. Could it be that Blake Lively was already working with Claire and said, get in there and get some dirt out of him? That would be pretty crazy. Here's a clip. We already played most of the clips on yesterday afternoon's show, but let's rehash a minute-long clip of Claire and Steve Sarowitz talking. Then I'll share some legal opinions on the matter.
It's so tricky, especially, I don't know, because I wasn't there, so I don't know what it was like.
I was.
You were there. Was it bad?
No.
Oh, God.
Justin never has a bad set. Yes, it was the worst set he's ever been on, but no, it wasn't bad. I was there on set. It was, Justin is really kind and loving, and he's like Rain. So you imagine Rain's running a set. It's just.
So Claire's fishing for tea. Was the set bad? It must have been, right? Now, why would Claire have any idea? I mean, obviously there were some rumors in the news here, but it's a lot of questions by Claire in this 38-minute long interview, or I should say phone call, that are being pulled out.
It's the Baha'i set. It's never going to be like that. No, it was just everything was made up. It was manufactured, and it was manufactured on purpose in order to take Justin down.
It sucks. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry because I know the intentions of making the movie were.
So he says it was manufactured on purpose with the intent to take Justin down. Now, this is going to be interesting because Claire knows she's recording, so she's got a little bit of a pre-planned motive, right? I mean, why would she be recording if she wasn't, if she didn't? And Steve Sarowitz doesn't know it's being recorded. Again, illegal in some states, especially the one it was recorded in, which I believe was California. And even though he doesn't know it's being recorded, he sticks to his accusation early on, which is that they manipulated him with manufactured accusations in order to get some control.
With such a purpose. I'm sorry to have this going on. I'm
The good
hoping
news
it's.
is it didn't take Justin down.
No, I'm
People-
hoping it's winding down. Fingers crossed.
I think it's going, well, Hollywood's still got a hold of it.
Yeah.
So she says, I hope it's winding down, fingers crossed. And of course, she then sent a nice little iCloud message to Blake Lively saying, I've got a 38-minute conversation for you. Here is some interesting theories from Lawyered Up on Twitter about the secret recording. Says the person, Claire, doing the secret recording has an agenda and is playing to the camera recording and cannot be judged as sincere. On the hand, Mr. Sarowitz did not know that he was being secretly recorded, thus his statements are sincere. I mean, that's basic stuff, right? With this background, Mr. Sarowitz said Blake's issues were manufactured to take Justin down. That's sincere. And Mr. Sarowitz said, you'll love Justin Baldoni if you meet him, which a lot of people are confused. If Claire had never even met Justin Baldoni, how did she accuse him of verbally abusing her? And as it turns out, some of the details about what that quote-unquote verbal abuse were come down to exactly what I believed they were, which is standard assistant director type stuff. How long the films were being set, how much money was being spent on post-production. And again, I don't know this for a fact, but that's the information coming up from podcasts. We'll get more clips on that, is that he wasn't being verbally abusive. He was trying to run a production company. So either way, interesting stuff there by that commenter. And I wanted to share, not actually Golden, you know we love to go to her for coverage. She actually gives Blake's lawyers some flowers here to say, hey, they worked with what was given to them. Have a listen.
Which is going to piss off a lot of people, but I do not care, is I'm going to defend Blake Lively's lawyers for using the quote in their complaint and in the 47.1 motion. Yes, it was pulled out of the middle of a much larger conversation. Yes, it was cherry-picked to look like something. That is their job. Lawyers do it all the time. We take pieces of things and we make arguments with it. We are always subject to the idea that if somebody sees or hears or reads the entire thing, that's not actually the context.
And that's the issue here, right? Is that while it played well for PR's sake, it's not going to play well in the courtroom, especially to the jury, because any reasonable person is going to see the comments from Steve Sarowitz and go, well, he immediately said, I don't mean two real dead bodies. It'd be like if I said something and then immediately said, just joking, or that's a metaphor. I don't mean it physically, that type of thing. So I think this doesn't help Blake's side at all. But again, did they ever expect it would go to trial? My belief is Blake thought this would have been a dagger enough to either get some sort of settlement or public apology or whatnot. But now that it's going to trial, even though the arc of justice has bent very slowly over the last year, it is bending, in my belief, into the direction of Justin Baldoni. But I do want to also give a shout out to Not Actually Golden here. She had to preface what she was saying this is going to piss a lot of people off. This is what's so tough with covering this, is you try to be fair. Even if I believe Justin Baldoni is innocent here, you can also say that Steve Sarowitz's comments were, not the best ones to make when it's exposed with regards to comparing it to the Israel-Hamas war. Look, say what you want. They are not the best. It's not the best analogy to make. But again, did the guy expect that he would be recorded and blasted? No, absolutely. So you can be objective and call that out and also say, but that doesn't mean Blake should twist the words he's saying in order to fit her agenda. It might work in the PR, but now that things are going to trial, it's not going to help them one bit. All right, let's go to some other content, and we're going to have updates on this, of course, as we continue to hear people's opinions. So just double check that you're subscribed to the channel. Sometimes YouTube and audio will accidentally unsubscribe, and so just double tap that subscribe button. General maintenance there, and let's go to some other lots of content to get into with regards to the shutdown. A lot of folks are upset that the government is shut down, and yet money is still being checks are still being written. In this case, this was before the shutdown, but Charlie Kirk's memorial. Secret Service spent $2.6 million to secure the area. Now, of course, it would be expensive to secure a memorial that's taking place at a stadium, so I don't doubt the price that was spent. But again, for a non-political figure to essentially make it a campaign rally several weeks after this happened, I think folks can finally start to have objective opinions now that, the mass PTSD that we all faced in one way or another, is digested, and people can start talking about it and go, wow, the government, if you were like Charlie Kirk's family, I don't think I would feel too good knowing that they turned that into a campaign rally, but I don't know, maybe. What do I know? Well, here's an update we have from Pete Hegseth regarding the murders without due process of these 7 different boats that have been blown out of the water. They're called narco terrorists. And a reporter asked him, what's your authority to do this? Here's the answer.
Mr. Secretary, what legal authority did the Pentagon invoke to strike that boat full of drug smugglers?
We have the absolute and complete authority to conduct that. First of all, just the defense of the American people alone. 100,000 Americans were killed each year under the previous administration because of an open border and open drug traffic flow. That is an assault on the American people. I said we smoked a drug boat, and there's 11 narco terrorists at the bottom of the ocean. And when other people try to do that, they're going to meet the same fate.
They smoked narco boats. And, the same thing I've said with Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the same thing I've said with Mahmoud Khalil. If they've committed a crime, run it through the court system before you send them down to be fish food, as it were. And speaking of money being, spent flying off the checking account of the U.S. government, which, by the way, is our tax dollars, Department of Homeland Security Secretary defends purchase of 2 Gulfstream G700 jets for $172 million. Says the funding was approved before the shutdown. Critics say DHS workers aren't being paid, and the original budget was $50 million for one jet. So there it is, folks. There's your taxpayer dollars going for 2 private jets, which, by the way, I don't think these are going to be used to even deport people. I think this is just for our, Barbie Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, to, run around, cosplaying. And the question remains, will these flights be pet friendly? Of course, she shot and killed her dog. So my first guess is no. And speaking of terrible responses, how about this? Trump's secretary, the one who wears the Christian cross right there on her clavicle, she has responded. Caroline Leavitt shares screenshots of text messages with Huffington Post, thinking this helps her case. So she was asked a question: is the president aware of the significance of Budapest? In 1994, Russia promised in Budapest not to invade Ukraine if it gave up the nuclear weapons it inherited when the Soviet Union dissolved. Does he not see why Ukraine might object to that site? And again, this negotiation with Russia is going to take place in Budapest. So the question was, who suggested Budapest? Thanks. And Caroline Leavitt responded, your mom did. And then Huffington Post said, is this funny to you? Caroline Leavitt said, it's funny to me that you actually consider yourself a journal. You are a far-left hack who nobody takes seriously, including your colleagues in the media. They just don't tell you that to your face. Stop texting me your disingenuous, biased, and bullshit questions. Boy, what would Jesus do, I guess is the question. Would Jesus have approved these text messages? This is wild stuff. It's one thing to see her put a shit-eating grin on her face and lie to the American public wearing her cross, which, by the way, somehow hasn't burned off her body yet. It's another to see the private messages come out of how appalling and, just disgusting she's treating these journalists who have a very, very tough job ahead of them. So that's her defending what she had to say. Dunk on those far left journalists, and there's still going to be a segment of the country that believes owning the libs is the way to be. Does that own your bank account? Can you afford groceries? Has the cost of living gone down? Do you feel like you live in a world that's better now than it was 8 months ago? Honest questions. Your mom did. Let's move it on from there. I can't believe these are real stories. Here's Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, responding to Donald Trump posting a video of him pooping all over protesters. What?
Johnson, you say that the Democrats had a Hate America rally, but what does it say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The president uses social media to make a point. You can argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents.
Well, just because he's not calling for the murder of his political opponents doesn't mean he's not calling them terrorist, pro-Hamas. Oh, sorry, that was you, Mike Johnson. But they're all doing that. While they're not calling outright for the murder, they're dividing the country in ways that might take a very long time, if ever, to recover from. I believe in satire as a comedian. I believe in speaking truth to power. What I don't believe in is our president, who we elected to represent us, all of us Americans, to be so divisive and so lazily so. I don't even know if Trump understands what he's doing at this point. And if this wasn't reason to invoke the 25th Amendment, I honestly don't know what is. And speaking of the metaphor of our country's Constitution being ripped apart, here is part of the White House, the East Wing, which is being ripped apart by what appears to be some construction vehicles here as they prepare to make a $250 million ballroom. Now, folks will say, yeah, but they're doing it with private funding. Well, how are they getting that private funding? Well, Trump just did $1 million a plate meal during a government shutdown at his home in Mar-a-Lago. That money being spent in order for people to fund a private ballroom, do we think they're not going to get to the front of the line with whatever issues they have? So you just see this sort of, whether it's legal or not, money laundering that goes on between the ultra wealthy. They get to make donations right off the taxes, and then when it's time to make a request on the tip line for any favors from the dictator in chief, they then get whatever they're looking for. And who knows, maybe P. Diddy made one of these donations. I don't have any evidence of that, but I'm not surprised to find out that Trump is considering pardoning P. Diddy, along with Ghislaine Maxwell in separate cases. But again, just we're watching this sort of bending the knee play out in real time. And it's astonishing to me that folks will literally look at this and go, well, but it's privately funded, as if we need to be worrying about a dance hall on White House grounds at a time when we're not paying literally any government employees. It's just really, really insane. All right, finally, Trump was questioned about sending $20 billion to Argentina instead of helping out U.S. farmers. Here's his, I'm guessing his response will be super measured.
To say to U.S. farmers who feel that the deal is benefiting Argentina more than it is them, as they are a top
Argentina's fighting for its life. Young lady, you don't know anything about it. They're fighting for their life. Nothing's benefiting Argentina. They're fighting for their life. You understand what that means? They have no money. They have no anything. They're fighting so hard to survive. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. I think he's trying to do the best he can, but don't make it sound like they're doing great. They are dying. All right, they're dying.
So in Trump's Make America Great Again, he is now giving 20, although I heard it might actually be $40 billion to Argentina, claiming that they're dying, which they might be having a hard time out there. And so are so many Americans. So are so many farmers and single moms and so many people in between, from veterans that can't get proper health care, left on the streets, not receiving medical care after fighting for their country, to people that can't, literally afford a home, afford a place to live off of a full-time job. The Americans are fighting. I don't know if Trump can understand that. So as he belittles this reporter for asking questions about where we send our money, he's apparently perfectly okay to help out other countries right now. I don't think this will sit well with the American public, but it's yet to be seen. That's it for all your updates today. This morning, I should say. We will have more. We'll find out more about Laura Owens and all of the other stories that we've been following this afternoon. So stick around for that. We'll see you then. I'm Dave, and this is The Rush.